Hello and welcome to a new lesson. In this one we'll basically have some introduction to actually the animation player. Okay, so the idea here is to actually get around a little bit with the different tools that the animation player node provides in Godot. So to basically get started with this, as I told you, for the basic, we'll basically use this ship that we are going to be animating throughout the different lessons for this introduction. So I will begin by creating the node as the root node, and as the only thing that I want to do is to basically display the image and animate it. That's why I will basically use just a sprite. Okay, I will not use any other kind of node because the only functionality that I want the ship to have is to render some images. Okay, and also we're going to be animating it, okay, but we're not going to, for example, be detecting collisions, be wanting to move it and collide, etc. We just want to display an image. Okay, so here on our sprite, let's load in the ship over there, and I will call it this one ship. Then I will save this scene, okay, in the corresponding scenes folder. Okay, that will be scenes, and here basics, and I will basically save all my scenes and stuff with capital letters like this. So now basically now in this folder we're going to be finding the ship scene. Now as a child of it, we'll actually use the animation player. That is basically the node that is used for animating this for animating any kinds of node. And as you can see, as soon as you add the animation player, you have this menu shown that is basically the animation panel. Okay, so basically in this panel over here, you are going to be finding all the tools, everything that the animation player provides in order to basically create any kinds of animation that you want. Additionally, something that I wanted to mention is the fact that in the Godot documentation, I really recommend to take a look at here, introduction to the animation features, because, well, of course, there are tons of things that you can take a look at when creating animations. Okay, you're going to be able here to find more information here, and also presented in a quite simple way in a text document. So basically they will also cover other stuff that may not be mentioned directly here in the course, because animations can they have a lot of options and settings that you can toggle that in most cases you are not really going to be using for most usages. So that's why maybe we don't really cover them. But anyway, I recommend you here to take a look at if you really want to. Now let's start with the most basic stuff about animation. That will basically be creating a new animation, deleting an animation, duplicating. It's something quite simple. So to create a new animation, basically you would select the animation player, and you would open here this animation menu up, because, well, this could be closed or open, of course. And for example, here, just for you to know, if you have the animation tab here open and you select any other type of node, as you can see, you are going to be able to actually add the animation, because you would add it to the animation player as well. Okay, so we are going to be able here to add any kind of animation. You're going to here be able to give it a name. So I'm not really going to be modifying here the animation name, because I'm not going to be playing around with it. So here, as soon as you create the animation, well, you see tons of options. So let's go step by step. Firstly, we have here the animation position in seconds. So as you can see here, we also have the length of the animation, and in this case is 1, and here we are in position 1. So basically it means that we are in the end of the animation. Okay, and we can move this around a little bit. Also, we can zoom in or out from the timeline. Okay, we can use the mouse wheel over here to zoom in or out, or also use here this kind of slider, and here, well, you can also move around a little bit. Also, from here you're able to change this snap. Basically you can have it to something like 0.1, for example, so you would move 0.1 units each time. You can also change it from frames per second, okay, or to literally seconds. It is usually just seconds here that you have. So here these are the most used options on the bottom. Then here on the top, well, you can here play the animation. Okay, that, well, we don't have much things there. We can go here to play the selected animation from start. So basically, for example, if we are over here and we press this, it's going to play the animation from complete start, as you can see. it started over here. Here we can pause or stop the animation playback. So for example, we can play it and here pause it or resume it, or sorry, start it again. Then from here it's going to play the animation backwards from the end. Okay, so basically going to do like the opposite of what this one does. And basically with this one, it's going to play the current animation but from the current position. Okay, so for example, if I am over here, I'm going to play backwards from this position. Okay, so it's like this one, okay, basically like this, okay, but to the other direction. Then in terms of here the animation button, as you remember, here we have here the new option to create a brand new animation. We also have the manage animation, that basically we can see like the different animations that we have over here, modify quickly their names. Okay, you can modify here the name. For example, I will give it new animation 2, for example, as the name. Or you can also go here to animation and rename. Okay, basically going to do the exact same thing. Then, well, duplicate, basically will duplicate the animation. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate it. I will have here the 2 animations. And also you can basically here remove any animation if you want. Okay, those 2 options I'm not going to be covering, okay, because they are a little bit more advanced or for more complex features that we are not actually going to be taking advantage of. Now, as I told you over here, you have the possibility of changing the length of the animation, so this isn't like a big deal. By default, it's going to be set to 1, but well, you can make this animation longer if you wanted to, or even you can make it shorter, like something like this, okay? And you also have here the loop mode, okay? So for example, I would set here the length to be 0.5, and as you can see by default, we have no loop. So basically, when we start playing the animation, well, once it finishes, it's not going to start over, okay? It will basically end there, okay? But for example, here in loop, if we click it once, it's going to basically enable the normal loop, let's say. So now when we play it, okay, it's going to play over and over again. Additionally, we have here this other option that is basically the same thing as looping, but it will go from the end of the animation, and once it reaches the end, it's going to go to the beginning, and once it reaches the beginning of the animation, it's going to go to the end of it, okay? So this is going to be going side to side all the time. And well, let's see it again with the normal loop. It's basically going to go to the end and instantly will go to the beginning. So it's not going to go end, beginning, end, beginning. It basically will go to the end and instantly will go to the beginning, okay? And on the other hand, this one would go smoothly side to side, okay? This option is probably not really used. In most cases, you would just use here looping if needed. Now, the other thing that you have to consider is the autoplay on load. So basically here in the animation player, you may have a variety of animations, okay? So as I told you, you may have here, let's say something like 3 animations, okay? So we can have here some animation that is going to be auto-played as soon as the game starts. So for example, if you may probably have an idle animation for your character. So probably by default, the animation that you want to be playing for your player, for your player is going to be the idle animation. So basically you would enable this option in any of the animations that you want to be played as soon as the game starts, okay? And as you can see, that animation that has autoplay is going to be marked with this icon, okay? Now finally, in order to start animating, what you use are basically called keyframes. So for example, if we go to the ship here, I will key, for example, its position. As you can see, I have here this key because I have an animation player. And basically I will click here create with the reset track, okay? We are only going to be using here reset tracks, okay? So basically here I have a keyframe, okay? So here I have keyed the position of it, that basically it is 0, 0. But what I can do over here is that I can move my position to, for example, 200, okay? And I can move a little bit in the timeline to something like the first second. And I can then move my ship to 200 in next, key that value as well. And when I play the animation, I will see that there is an interpolation between the 2 points. And there we have like some kind of first animation, okay? So I will see you in our following lesson, in which we will actually start creating some of these animations. Hi there and welcome to a new lesson. In this one we'll actually create our first, let's say, complete animation for our ship, okay? Basically the animation that we are going to have over here is basically an animation that will move our player from some points, let's call it point A, to some other point, let's call it B, okay? And as that movement happens, we'll also change a little bit its color and opacity. So it's going to be like the first approach towards creating an actual animation, okay? So actually before creating any other animation, we're going to remove all the ones that we created in the previous lesson, because those were just quick tests for you to understand correctly some basic properties of the animation player. So let's go ahead and basically delete all these things that we have over here. So basically we're going to have a brand new animation player. So like this your animation player should look like, okay? So the first thing, as I told you, I want to move my ship from some point to some other point, okay? But well, if we play our scene like this, as you can see, our ship is on the top left of the screen. So I actually want it to be centered, okay? In order to center the object on the screen, we have to have the screen size and basically divide that screen size by 2, okay, in order to have it in the exact center, mathematically talking. So let's go to the project settings, and here on the window we do have here the width and height of the viewport. So I'll basically here copy the width of it and paste it over here. So when I do that, as you can see, going to go to the top right, okay? So mathematically, if we divide here this value by 2, we're going to get the half of this value, basically to the center of the screen. And now basically we have to do the exact same thing but for the y-axis. So let's go to project settings, and over here let's copy again the viewport height. I will paste it over there. It will go to the complete bottom of the game of the viewport. So I will divide this value by 2 to get the half of it, and by getting the half of the value I will be able to center my ship. So now when I play, I will have my ship completely centered, okay, in both axes. And even if we resize the screen, it's going to stay in the exact same center due to the fact that we have already set the stretching correctly in the project setup, okay? So now that we do have that, let's start with the actual animation, okay? So as you should already know, we are going to select the animation player to create a brand new animation, and that will open up here the animation tab. That again, you can open it up or close it, okay, by just clicking here the animation. And let's create a brand new one. So I will go here to the animation tools button and create a brand new one. Here you can literally name your animations using any model, let's say, of naming that you want. You can use this one that is basically separating the different words with an underscore and writing all of those in lower cases. But as I'm just using here this pattern of separating the words with capital letters, I will follow that pattern again for naming my animations. But well, you can always name your stuff as you want, but well, make sure that you are naming everything with the same pattern, okay? So basically following that, in this case, animations are always contain like some kinds of verb, okay? So for example, move in this case, because as I told you, we want to move from one point to other, and at the same time that we do that, I'm going to be changing the color, okay? So in most cases for your actual games, you're not going to have like this kind of abstract names like move, change color. It sounds a little bit weird. In actual games, you're going to have even shorter names, and that are going to be like more direct. For example, run, walk, die, run, I don't know. So it's going to be even easier for you to name them, and it's not going to be like a little difficult, because here you read move, change color, and it doesn't ring anything. So let's basically create it over here. I will zoom out a little bit using my mouse wheel or using here this slider so that I can see everything. And what I'm going to do over here is that, remember that I want to move from one point to other, okay? So I will go to the beginning of the animation, basically to point 0. So basically what you firstly have to define in any kind of animation which properties you want to be modifying, okay? In this case there are two properties. basically the position and also the color, okay? And that in Godot is under visibility modulates, okay? So here if we change this, as you can see, it's going to change the color of the node. So once you do know which properties you want to be modifying, you have to go to step number 2, and that is basically keying the initial values, okay? So the initial values are just going to be probably the ones that you already have here in your scene. So basically my initial position is going to be this one. So let's key it over here. And my initial color is just going to be this one. Okay, so basically these are going to be your initial values, your initial parameters that then throughout the animation are going to be modified. Actually, if you play this like this, as you can see, there's going to be no effect since there's no animation. But for example, if we move the ship to other place and we change its modulate, when we play the animation, we are going to see some change, okay? Due to the fact that, well, here we are actually setting a position in this keyframe that if we click it, we can see more values, that the time and the value. We modulate the same stuff. So we are basically setting these properties up. And now after this, you have to think of, again, how we are going to be changing these property values, okay, and in which point of your animation. In this case, at the end of the animation, this is going to be in second 1 due to the fact that our animation is 1 second long. I will basically here want to modify the position, okay, so I will basically using the move tool, I will move this to the right, okay, to some point maybe like this. And now let's basically key this value as well, okay. So there we have it. And now, for example, if we play the animation, there we see it, okay. Now we have to do the exact same thing but with the modulate, okay. In my case, just to do things a little bit more interesting, I will basically change the color of it to be completely red, and I will also basically fade it out by decreasing its opacity to 0, okay. Basically the alpha is the opacity or the transparency, in other words. So let's key that value as well. And as you can see, actually here Godot is quite visual, okay. You can actually see over there how here the color is changing gradually, okay. That's important thing, gradually from white, okay, as you can see, and slowly it begins to convert into complete red, and at the same time it is decreasing its opacity, okay, until we can't barely see it, okay. And now when we play this animation, okay, there we can see the effect. Now if we run the scene, nothing is going to be happening. Why? Because we are actually not telling the animation player to play anything. So basically here, maybe if we want to see it in the game, we should actually turn on autoplay that we have already explained in the previous lesson. So let's turn this on. So basically this will allow us to play this animation as soon as the game starts. So there we have it, okay. And furthermore, we can even enable here the loop for this animation. So basically this will allow us to activate the animation over and over again. And finally, you can also turn on the second mode for the loop, okay, basically the kind of reverse loop, and this will allow us to have like the animation playing from one side to other. That again, I already explained this in the previous explanation, okay. Also, one parameter mode that you can modify a little bit besides the one that we have already checked, I will basically just enable here the default loop. It's the speed, okay. This is basically the speed. For example, the default speed is 1, but you can change it, sorry, to 2, and that will basically run as twice as fast, okay. You can also use here float numbers if you want, and you will have, well, there are more fields to play around with, okay. So basically this is going to be all for our move change color animation. Again, feel free to adjust the name of the animations as you really want to. Hello there and welcome to this new lesson, okay. So basically in this one, what we're going to be creating is a quite similar animation to the one that we created in the previous one, that basically will move the ship, okay, and change its color at the same time. Basically we are changing the color from plain white to red, and at the same time we are decreasing its opacity until the ship completely disappears. Okay. So what is important here for you to know, at least the basics, is that for most animations here in this setting of the ramp, it's going to be set to continuous. Okay, so basically there's going to be an interpolation, okay, between the different keyframes. Okay, it's going to go smoothly from one point to other. And as you can see, for most properties, for most values that you modify, this is going to be the default update mode, it's actually called. Okay. So basically, yes, by default, most of the options have this continuous option. Okay, so it's the most used type of update mode that you're going to be finding the most. Okay, but there are also other cases in which you may want to use other update mode. In this case, we're also going to be discussing here discrete mode. So basically, to begin with this, let's go ahead and create a brand new animation, as we have already did in one of the previous lessons. So I will call it move change color, and here I will write discrete. Okay, now we'll click here okay to basically create there the animation, and I will do something actually quite similar to what we did in our previous one. So basically, I also want to move my ship from one point to other. So let's basically here on discrete, I will go to my ship, and always remember that we're going to need an initial value and an end value. Okay, so initially our position is basically going to be this one. So let's key this value. And at the end of the animation, that in this case has the length is set to 1, the end of it is going to be second 1. And in this frame, I will basically move the ship to the right to something like this, and I will key that value as well. Also here, important to know that you don't really have to use the exact same values that I'm using over here in terms of position, in color, or in literally anything, because here you're not going to be having like a super different result. If here you write, for example, 1200, the result is going to be the exact same one, just that maybe your ship moves more or less. Okay, but overall the result is going to be the exact same one, and the knowledge that you gain is going to be the exact same one. Okay, so basically now, until now, what we have is basically these kinds of movements. Okay, so until now everything is the exact same. However, now let's get started with some stuff new. So basically, I'm going to be keying demodulate again. That, remember, this is the property that allows us to change the color of a sprite. What I want to do is basically go from basically 1 in every color. Okay, so I will key this value, and at the end of the animation, again in second 1, I will in this case just fade it out. Okay, so I will decrease its opacity to basically 0. Okay, and key that value. Of course, you can do the exact same thing as here, doing it with red. Okay, but it doesn't really matter, as I told you, as long as we create some kinds of animation. So until now, if we basically play it, we can see that indeed, well, we have here the ship moving from left to right, and at the same time that it is moving, it is like fading out. Okay, however, we have here the update mode that is basically set to continuous. Okay, causing this interpolation between the 2 points. So what we can do over here is to explain you what discrete update mode is. I think it's even easier if I just change it over here, and you're going to be able to easily realize the difference between both modes. First of all, let's compare here like the kind of graphic that Godot give us. So in discrete, as you can see, it is always white, this kind of graphic over here, but on the other hand, basically it is only in the end of the keyframe that it actually changes the color. Whereas on the other hand, if we set this to be continuous, basically it is going to always be like changing here the color to reach this final color that we set it up. So here, if we set this to be continuous and we play the animation, okay, basically what happens is that there is no interpolation between the 2 points. Okay, at least on the color. Check that here the color is always the same one. You can check it both on the shape itself on the scene, and also on the modulate property. As you can see, it is always the exact same thing, but as soon as we get to the end, okay, that is the exact place where our modulate is being changed. Okay, so that is that is the most important thing I hope to know about discrete and continuous. There may be some specific situations in which you would really want to use this kind of discrete kind of update modes, and this is also for you to get exposed to more surface in the engine. Okay, now I will do the exact same thing but with the position, for example. So here we can change this to be discrete. Okay, and now as you can see, it is always going to be staying at the initial position, but well, as soon as the animation finishes over here, it's going to change to this one. And for example, we can leave the position to be discrete and here the modulate to change it to continuous. And basically what is going to happen is that indeed the ship is going to be faded out, and as here we have set position to be discrete, it's not going to change the position of it unless we are on the end of the animation. Okay, so again here there are a variety of results that you come up to if you start modifying here the update mode from continuous to discrete in the, both properties that we are modifying right now. For example, here if in the modulate, remember that here in our, let's say, original animation, we were changing it to again with a no opacity color, but what we had here like some kind of red color. So for example, if in this case I come back here to the discrete option, okay, and I'm going to make this a completely red. I'm using this mode over here to be able to actually make that red a little bit easier. As you can see, now I will actually give it opacity so that we can actually see that it is indeed red, but well, I will just disable it for now. And basically now the result that we are going to be getting is the exact same one that we used to have, in spite of here actually having red. Why this is happening? Because we have set, for example, here discrete to be the update mode, so it's basically going to change from white to this color. Okay, and in spite of here changing any kinds of color, here actually Godot is modifying the color of it, but the thing is, as it doesn't have even one of value in the opacity, we are not going to be able to see it. Okay, and again here it can have literally any color that you want, but as it is completely transparent, we are not going to be able to actually see something. But for example here, if I do it something like this and I even give it like a super low value, such as, well, one is usually is or for sure super low, but let's give it something a little bit more and let's see if we can see it. Okay, so that we can see it. So yes, we must give it here some kind of opacity in order to see the ship, and if we don't see it, okay, here as I told you, if we set the opacity to be 0, it doesn't really matter which color we set over here, we are not going to be able to see the ship. That is just for you to understand correctly why it's not actually needed here to change the color to be red. Okay, we can assign here any other color. So basically with this, you now have the difference between discrete update modes and continuous update modes. Basically one is going to interpolate between the two keyframes that are, or the other one, basically discrete, is not going to interpolate between both, but will only change it like when the keyframe is executed. Okay, so I will see you in our following lesson. Bye bye.